Yeah.
I'm good. How are you?
Good. How was your Cinco de Mayo?
It was good. I actually had a margarita, so it's official.
Fabulous. Well, you're better than me. I was at a 3-year-old's birthday party, so no margaritas were had last night for me. But well, thank you so much for joining. I know we've got about five minutes, and then I'll kick us off at the top of the hour. But anything that's on your mind that you kind of want to talk about? Of course, I have a ton of questions for you, but is there anything in particular, maybe like fun that you're working on right now that you might want me to have questions for?
Yeah, actually, there is one thing that's fun that we're working on. Yeah, we have our core business, Movoto, on the side with the son of a friend of mine. We have an AI role play product called SalesGo.ai that
Okay.
is a lot of fun, and they're just launching it and getting a lot of great feedback from agents that want to role play, but you know are afraid to. It's awkward. They don't have a role play partner. The partner doesn't show up, so they're using this to on demand to be able to role play whenever they want to build their skills.
That's awesome. Are they actually talking? Like, is there like a human being, like AI
It's,
human?
it's an AI. It's an AI. Yeah, you choose the type of call, like circle prospecting or expired call. You hit the button, the phone rings, a voice answers, and you are just interacting with it. Every
That's awesome.
call is different. Every persona is different. It's a great way. I have a real estate team still in San Diego, so they've been using it, and I have people that are setting multiple appointments a week now that were struggling before, just because their confidence is higher and they're not afraid, and they don't get stopped when someone says something and they don't know how to respond. So.
For sure. Well, I do have a couple of questions, but I'll save it for when we get going and kind of towards the end about it, because I think that's going to be super helpful for real estate. Because one of the things I struggled with in the very beginning was I was consistent. I wanted to role play with people, but you know how agents are. It can be tough to get someone that's just as consistent as you to have that accountability and help on a regular basis. So with AI, it's like, yeah, you can do it anytime.
It's hard to find multiple U's.
100%. And speaking of San Diego, go Aztecs. I went to San Diego State. So
really?
Fun fact. Yep.
Well, I went to USD. I moved there when I was 20, and
okay.
Which is when I got my real estate license as a sophomore. I just finished my sophomore year in college, and so I was there, full time until 2010, and then started working in Austin. But I kept my team. My team is still there in San Diego. I don't live there anymore. I visit a few times a year, but.
Mm-hmm. It's a great place to visit. I love it.
Yeah. It's like the best weather in the country.
Oh, absolutely. I know. And I actually just moved to Florida. I'm in the Tampa Bay area now, back to sunshine. So I'm originally from Oregon. So rain and gray all the time. And now it's awesome just being in sunshine 24/7 pretty much. So got to deal with the hurricanes, but other than that.
Either that or earthquakes. So.
Yeah, exactly. Although we haven't had one over there in like at least a big one in a really, really, really long time. So
there's not a bad one. A couple of weeks ago, 5.2 one.
Really?
Yeah, out past Julian.
Okay. Did it like actually damage?
There wasn't much damage, but people felt it.
Yep. That's always crazy. I remember my first one when I was a kid. I was in a 14-story condo, and it was literally like. Like, this is wild. Yeah. But awesome. Well, we're getting close, and let's just get started here. So yeah, I'm gonna ask you a bunch of questions, and I'll leave some time at the end too and ask you whatever you want to talk about, whatever's on your mind. But since we're there, let's go for it. So, hey, everybody, welcome back. We're going to do another real conversation where we cut the BS and we get into what actually works in real estate today. I'm Jen, founder of EstateOfJenn, and today I've got someone with me who knows the industry front to back, been in the business for a really long time, Chris Heller. You guys might know him as the former CEO of Keller Williams and the current Chief Real Estate Officer at Ojo, also a best-selling author and serious OG when it comes to scaling teams, building systems, and also staying relevant through every wave this market throws at us. But today, we're not just going to be talking about the past. We're going to really dig into real stuff that agents want to know in 2025. what's working now, what's not, what's worth your energy, and then also what are the distractions out there. So let's just dive right in. Chris, I want to start with what every agent is chasing, what every agent talks about, which is leads. The game has changed though with that, and it's not just cold calls and postcards anymore. It also has to be content and funnels and tech, but also at the same time relationships, right? So there's all this stuff going on, and I know my audience would want to know and hear from you, like, what is actually working for lead generation in 2025? Are we overcomplicating it with all this tech? Or are we just missing basics? Kind of, give us your insights on that.
I don't think it's the tech that overcomplicates it. I think it's the humans that overcomplicate it, right? It's the agents that either think they have to have things perfect before they start, or they're trying too many things instead of becoming the master of a few. I think what's relevant today was relevant yesterday in some respects, and that is there's so many ways to get business in our industry, and especially as a newer agent, you can really get lost in like doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and getting results consistent with doing a little bit of this or a little bit of that. So yeah, I think the most important thing for agents is like figuring out the 2 or 3 things they're going to really get masterful at, and going deep on those before they add more.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you've led agents through every wave of tech and this whole landscape for a long time. How do you know when a lead generation strategy is just shiny object versus like an actual scalable system?
I think it's a good question. I think there's a couple things you got to look at. It could be super scalable, but if you don't like it and you aren't going to put the effort into it and do it really on a consistent basis and be really persistent with your effort, it's not going to work. Like, people will say, "Hey, Chris, does this work or does that work?" And my answer is, it works if you do, right? If it's like,
Work
yeah.
it.
So,
Absolutely. Yep.
so I think but back to your question, I think here's one way that I've used to determine if something's a shiny object. And this isn't, I hate to refer to it as an old adage, but it is. If something looks and sounds too good to be true, it probably is, right? There's like, can we get results faster if we do certain things? Absolutely. Are there is technology allowing us to streamline our processes and our efforts? No doubt about it. But we just have to understand there's no magic pills or secret weapons. Are there hacks? Are there shortcuts? Yeah, there's shortcuts to processes, but there's typically not shortcuts to results.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so kind of speaking to that, leads are one thing, right? And there's a lot of different ways to sell real estate and build that well. But I think what every agent secretly, or maybe like not so secretly, struggles with is actually just the follow-up piece of that. Everyone's distracted. You got people ghosting you. People don't want to feel pushy, but I want to give people real strategy. And I know people in my audience would love to hear from you. Like, what does that follow-up look like in a world where people don't answer phones, they're ignoring emails, and they get bombarded with all this
Yeah,
information?
I think, Jen, you're hitting on the right thing. I think follow-up is the critical piece, right? We can be the best person at generating leads online or generating leads by whatever whatever we're focused on or whatever we're doing. But if our follow-up, if we aren't doing follow-up, we aren't doing it effectively, then that's all for naught. Right? It's all wasted. So here's a couple thoughts on follow-up. We have to understand what our goal is in the follow-up, right? Our goal is to connect with the person, and then we're looking for one of 3 outcomes, right? Either set an appointment or move it forward to when you can set an appointment, right? So, they have a condition, they're not going to know about the job transfer for 3 weeks. So, okay, all right, in 3 weeks we're going to talk again, and hopefully I'll be congratulating you on your new job. Or determine that you can't help them and there's no need to follow up with them anymore. When we're not getting a hold
Mhm.
of them, or when agents talk about being ghosted, and by the way, you are never ghosted. You you're not
Right.
ghosted because you're
Yep.
not for someone to ghost you, they'd have to make a conscious effort and a conscious decision. And I hate to break it to most of you, but you're not that important to them, right? You are not on their radar. They are not thinking about you. They got their life, they got their challenges, they got their kids, they got their job, they got their everything going on. They're not thinking about you. Now, are we thinking about them? Yes, because that's our job, and we're focused on that lead and that that building that relationship. But we're not on their radar. So if they're not responding, it's just we haven't either done or said the right thing to get them to respond, or it's just not the right time for them to respond. Right?
Mhm.
I've been I've done that myself many, many times, right? A salesperson's engaging with me, and if I'm not ready to talk to him, I just don't talk to him. Like it's not, I got too
Yep.
much going on, and when I am, I'm going to answer the phone or I'm going to call them and say, "Hey, let's get going. I want to do this now." Um, so,
Yep. Mhm.
but understanding that means that you have to be really persistent and consistent. I always say there's three components to follow up: being persistent, consistent, and effective. Right? So follow up is not, hey Jen, I'm just checking in. Anything change in your situation? No one wants to be checked in on, right? And there's no value that I get as a consumer of someone checking in on me. Um,
Mhm.
um, but follow up should be never ending. Like it should never stop. It doesn't stop. People say, well, how long do you follow up for? Like, well, how long do you plan on being in real estate? The follow up should be ongoing, right? At some point they'll say,
Absolutely.
hey, Chris, you don't need to follow up with me anymore because we already bought a house, or we just listed our home, or if you call me one more time, I'm gonna, sue you, or whatever the case may be. But
I have that thing I always say. Oh,
was
sorry,
gonna
go
say,
ahead,
but
go ahead.
unless one of those things happen, a follow up should never end. It's just how bad do you want it, right? These Most consumers,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
they became a lead, whether it was an online lead, they filled out a form, there's some indication they're going to do something. And the only question is, are they going to do it with you, or are they going to do it with someone else? Right. And if you're
Mhm.
determined to have it be done with you, for you to be their agent, then why would you ever stop trying to connect with them? Why would you ever stop trying to build a relationship? Why would you ever stop trying to be the one?
Absolutely. I know I have. So this is music to my ears because I coach and train a lot of real estate agents. And I'm like, yes, you're saying everything that I'm telling them. And the thing that I tell people is your follow up should look like you should never, follow up is forever. I actually have an event I do every month that is called Follow Up is Forever. And you should follow up until they buy or sell a house with you, they pass away, or they tell you to F off. Those are the only, like, those are the three outcomes. It's that, or that, and those are very clear roadmaps. So otherwise, your follow up is forever. Really, it
It
never
is,
ends,
and
like you said.
and any
So
of those things are okay, right? Like none of this is like. I think a lot of times we take ourselves too seriously and say, "Oh, they're ignoring me, or they're ghosting me, or or they didn't respond." It's like, so what? All right. And it's like, and if they tell you to F off, it's like, all right, well, thanks for letting me know where we stand. And then you move on.
at least
Yeah.
that's an
Yeah.
eight. Absolutely. So, okay, so it's kind of bridging this gap because obviously there's a lot of tech noise and then, there's the relationship building, all of that. Is there anything like real time right now you've seen an agent in a modern way implement a follow up, whether it's a system, a strategy, or a way that's modern that they just nailed it, that they're, using, tech and their skills to kind of bridge those two things together that are doing it at a high level?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of them. And there's different types of follow up. So one thing that just popped to mind when you asked that question was, let's say, let's say I meet you online. I got introduced to you by a company, by our platform, by whatever company, and we set an appointment for 4 days from now. I don't even know what day of the week this is. Whatever 4 days from now is. Today's Tuesday. Okay. So
Friday.
let's say Saturday we have an appointment. Now I could, hey Jen, great. We're meeting on Saturday, 2 o'clock at the property. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you there. I'm going to send you my contact information as soon as we hang up. So I text my information, and now 4 days go by, and I show up, early, because that's what good agents do. And I am like, and I hope she shows. I hope she remembered. I hope she's here. And instead
Yeah.
of hoping that something's going to happen, there's some specific things I see agents doing that is really effective. So a couple of things are, number one, they'll pick up their phone and just record a quick video and say, "Hey, Jen, this is Chris Heller. Just want to put a face with a name. I'm the one you're going to be meeting at Tuesday. Now you know who to look for, or a Saturday."
Mhm.
And so that just makes it a little more real, right? A little more personal. And then every day between now and then, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to email you and text you. And what I email you isn't that important. And what I text you is only important if it ends in a question mark. So I'll give you an example. We have an appointment Saturday. I may send you an email. Maybe you're a first-time buyer. Hey, Jen, here's my my buyer's packet. It'll help you understand the process more. If you have any questions, we'll talk about them when we meet. Right? That's the email. Or it might
Mhm.
be, hey, Jen, here's the last 3 homes that sold in the neighborhood we're going to. I thought you'd find that interesting. The important part is that I follow up with a text message that ends in a question. And the question is simply, hey, Jen, I sent you an email. Did you get it? Hey, Jen, I sent you an email. Have you seen it? And what I'm looking for is just the engagement, right? I'm just looking for a response. It might
Yep.
be a thumbs up emoji, it might be a thumbs down emoji, it might be, thanks, Chris, I'll look, or hey, Chris, I got it, but I haven't read it, or yeah, I saw it, thank you, whatever. If that happens for the next 4 days, by the time we meet, the foundation of a relationship has already been created. Like subconsciously, they
Mhm.
are already connected to me, whether they know it or not. And so when I meet with them or meet with you and have that conversation about, hey, Jen, let me explain the process and how we work and how we get compensated and what you need to be aware of, it's just a much more seamless conversation because they already feel connected to me and related to me. So that's just a simple way of agents leveraging technology, right? Emails, SMS, but adding that human touch to it and being a little strategic in what they're doing rather than leaving it to chance that things are going to go well.
So yeah, so what I'm hearing from you is 3 or 4 things. Number 1, different modes of communication, right? Some people are text people, some people are email, whatever. But so you're hitting them on all those aspects. Number 2, you're consistent in even the follow up, even though you already secured the appointment. So, and then third is building rapport and then providing value. So you're doing all of those things before you even meet them
Yeah,
in
meeting
person.
them all that happens before you meet them for the first time, because I think
Yep.
I think a lot of agents forget too that we're in the game of building relationships, right? Like no one chooses to do business with someone unless they feel that there's a relationship there, and the foundation of a relationship is trust, rapport, those type of things. So as agents, we got to be looking every day. Okay, what are we doing to build either new relationships or what are we doing to deepen the relationships we already have,
Mm.
right? And by that I mean, we may have a database of people, or we may have a lot of followers on TikTok or Instagram, but what are we doing to deepen that relationship? What are we doing to deepen that connection? Because guess what?
Mm.
They're following other people and they're in other people's databases, and there's companies that are contacting them and making them offers, um, to help them buy or sell homes or get cash offers or whatever that company does that's contacting them. So, we want to be the one that's bringing them those options, bringing them those those different pieces of value. And that only happens if we're building and deepening those relationships.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, kind of pigging back off of that, but pivoting a little bit into something that I think will hit really close to home for a lot of people that are watching is leadership. So, like whether you're a team leader, you're a brokerage owner, or just leading yourself, through the chaos as a solo agent, and you've led huge teams. Is there, do you think, a difference between good leadership and actual influence in 2025?
Oh, I absolutely. I think you that's kind of a softball that you gave me, but yeah, there's I think more now than ever, leadership is really important, and you hit on all the spots, right? Even leading ourselves is just as important as anything
Mm.
else. Being the one affecting the outcome versus being at the effect of things. Being the one
Mhm.
that's being proactive, being the one that's being purposeful versus being the one that's being reactive. Uh, so how we prepare ourselves, how we lead ourselves, how we work on our skills, how we work on our mindset is super important. If you're leading a team or a brokerage, um, there's there's a big difference between leading and managing. This is a conversation I have a lot with people because I'll see people trying to manage other people, and I don't believe you can manage people. I believe you can manage processes. I believe you can manage, um, you know, outcomes and things like that. But people, you have to lead people, and you can only, I think, really lead people. You're either going to lead them in the right direction or a wrong direction based on how you do it and who you are. But um, leading our teams and leading our brokerages is it can be defined a lot of different ways. Right. Like one of the ways I think about is, teaching people how to think so they can get the things they want or achieve the goals that they have. Um, Leading them by example, right? Which is just so important. I think with everything going on in the world, that's like really timely. Uh, and then also understanding that, um, it's you gotta, and this goes to leading by example, but it's the do as I say, not as I do concept just doesn't work at all, not even a little bit. Uh, so yeah, I
Mhm.
think leading and thinking, having a leadership mindset for everything we do, I think is really important. And that's, someone says, well, how do you get, I got asked this recently, like how do you train yourself to be a good leader? Look, there's no shortage of books, podcasts, or anything else, but there's leadership lessons around us constantly, and it's just whether we're paying attention to them or not. Because if we are paying attention to them, we'll see it. I had dinner last night in the restaurant, and it was just another family, and the check came, and my friend said, "Hey, can you divide this up 60-40?" And you would have thought he asked the waitress or the server to like do calculus, and she like she made a facial expression and like almost rolled her eyes, and like it was like wow, and she walked away. and and that was like, okay, that's not how you want to interact with the people that you just spent an hour serving, that you're depending on them to reward you for your service. And so there's, like I said, there's leadership lessons everywhere. We just need to be paying attention.
Sure. Yeah, no, and absolutely. And right now there's a lot of dynamics with building teams, and so specifically on that, like how do you build a team that actually stays, especially when there's lots of things are remote, there's full virtual brokerage options, there's you know agents tend to change around and move around and all of this. So like in all of that noise and all of the wanting to look in the other lane and all of that, what do you think, if you're talking to, whether that's team leaders or brokerages, whatever, and also same kind of principle with it, just even if you're a solo agent in you know corralling or like managing the leads that you have and leading them, like how do you make people stick, whether it's you're building a real estate team or you're building a brand and capturing
Yeah,
leads.
that's an important question. The I'll answer it from the perspective, if you're building a team or running a brokerage, or where you actually have people that are there with you, and how do you get them to stay, and how do you do it? I think there's a couple components. Number one, and these aren't in order of importance, but there has to be opportunity, right? If I'm in an organization and I don't feel like there's opportunity, and opportunity could mean a lot of different things to different people, but for the most part, it's like opportunity to grow, opportunity to achieve more. People have to have that. All right, and if they don't see that and they don't think it's there, or if they think that they've gone as far as they can go, then they're going to look elsewhere. So you have to have a business that's big enough, and a mindset that's big enough to have opportunities for people. I think the other thing is,
Mhm.
as a leader, you have to be inspirational, and I don't mean speaking in quotes, or rah stuff. It's like you have to be someone that people want to be associated with, right? That people are
Mhm.
like, hey, this is a person, and then that begs the question, okay, who are those people, or what are the traits of those people? You know, People that think of anyone that you've ever worked for, that you were like, hey, I'd run through walls for this person, or I'd work with them, no matter where they went, right? They had your back, they cared about you, um, they were transparent, they were always truthful, you could count on them. They're not going to do one thing and say another thing. They're not going to do one thing or say one thing and then say something different. Like, they're consistent. So those are all the traits that you look at. And if you're being that type of person, people are going to want to be around you, and people aren't going to, um, be so quick to look elsewhere or jump ship. I think there's, another thing is, if people feel like they're learning and growing. So if you're really helping people learn and improve and get better, and sometimes we have to remind them that that's happening, right, and show them examples of it, and say, "Gosh, Jen, you
Mhm.
know, um, just think like 6 months ago where you were and where you are today when it comes to." Having a buyer consultation. Look how much you've grown. So I'm reminding you of that because you're not going to be thinking
Mhm.
about it. But as I remind you of that, you go, wow, yeah, this is great. And yeah, thank you. And you're the one that pushed me to get better, and those things. So there's a lot of components to it. There's not one simple answer, but if we do most of those things, then there's far less reasons for people to leave.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, and then so on the flip side of that, or quote unquote negative side of that, but honestly, it depends on how you take it, because any feedback is feedback. Um, you know, when we lose a client or we lose an agent, if you have a team, and I think this plays into a little bit about the book that you wrote, because it's a lot about mindset and how you handle those things. What are just like a couple like main things to handle those situations, the quote unquote rejection you get, or the negative feedback, because that's really important if you're going to continue to grow or continue to have the motivation to continue selling real estate and reaching out to leads when you face that rejection as a team leader, brokerage owner, or just a real estate agent in general. So what are some of those things that you utilize in your business when those things
Yeah,
happen?
I think you hit on the key point. And that is having that growth mindset, right? And if you don't have it, developing it. Um, fortunately, I just have it, right? I always want to get better, and I'm never satisfied with where I'm at because I know that there's room for improvement. But if that's your mindset, then you're gonna do things that are consistent with that. So um, let's talk about, you lose a client or you lose rejection, or you go on a listing appointment and they choose someone else. Um, you know, we're all human. That doesn't feel good. It stings that, there's pain. There's two things I always try to do. Number one, um, I would not let it bother me for a long period of time. In fact, I had a rule. I called it my 3-minute rule. I gave myself 3 minutes to be emotional, to be pissed, to be whatever. And when those 3 minutes
Mhm.
were up, it was like, next, I'm moving forward.
Yep.
Um, but I also would want to learn from it. So I called every time I didn't get a listing, I called that seller and said, "Hey, Jen, I understand you decided to hire someone else. I wish you the best. Hope your house sells quick and for the most money possible. I have a favor to ask you, and I want you to be completely honest with me, and I promise I won't take any of it personal. But what did I do or not do that caused you to make that decision, or what would have caused you to choose me?" And I got
Mm,
really direct feedback from people, and
mm,
in the moment, it didn't feel good. Sometimes it hurt, but man, was it good information. And so I just took it when I said I won't take it personally, um, and you can be completely honest with me, I meant that in every cell of my body. And so when I got that, I was like, okay, ouch, that hurt. But what do I need? What do I need to do different? What did I learn from that? And I learned a lot,
yep.
and all those things helped me be better and the next go around. Uh,
Mhm.
so
Absolutely. So what I'm hearing is take a minute, there's, or 3 to yeah, that's fine. You can be upset, you're a human, but don't just move on to move on. It's one thing to just, shut it out and compartmentalize, but that little in between section of reflecting, getting a response if you can from them about what it is that you could have done better, what for them, what was the reason that they didn't go with you, and then take that and you have to apply it. So it's kind of a 3-step thing: mourn it, reflect on it, and implement whatever it is that you
Yeah, and I'll
learned.
tell you
This is kind of
what,
what I'm hearing.
there's another thought just popped in my head, and you referenced the book, and the book is, if anyone, is called Dominant Thoughts. This isn't about the book, but there's a chapter in there that I talk about not being attached, being committed but not attached. So it's much easier to
Mm,
do everything you just described if you're not attached to the outcome. Right now,
100%. Yeah.
when I said I wasn't attached to the outcome, it didn't mean that I wasn't that I didn't want the transaction to close, or to close on time, or my client to get a good deal, or to get the most money possible, or for them to get their home sold. I was 100% committed for those outcomes, but I wasn't attached to them.
Mhm.
Like I didn't. I developed the mindset of not being emotionally attached. When you're emotionally attached to something,
Yep.
you hold on tight, you grip tight, you feel it in your stomach, it hurts you, it messes with your emotions. And as professionals, we can't allow ourselves to be that way. Can you imagine
Mhm.
a professional athlete? Like, it's baseball season now. Baseball player strikes out. Next time, if he goes up to bat, if he's still like kicking himself for his last at bat and what he did, and think about all that, what's the chances of him having a good outcome in his next at bat? Not high. Or you think about the
Nice.
emergency room physician, like one of the hardest jobs I think there is. And if they were attached to every situation and every patient, they'd be a they'd be an emotional wreck. I mean, how long would you last? A few days before you wanted to jump off the building? Now they're committed. They're
Yep.
committed to being, providing care and getting people out of pain and do those things. But if they become attached, they won't be able to be effective. So I think that's
Right.
an important distinction for people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, and also too, we have to, as professionals, like you said, we have to also understand that our clients are
Yeah.
attached. And so, and being able to properly communicate and explain why it's a benefit for them, for you not to be attached, but committed instead, and why that's better. So, give really quickly, how do you do it? So for someone that maybe is struggling right now with taking it personal, I actually was just in a conversation with an agent yesterday of like, I thought the appointment went so well, I don't understand why I didn't get it. And and I can just tell that they're down. And that's, as the market is shifting how it is, we're going to be in more competition. It's going to start, getting harder. So right now, if you were talking with an agent that was struggling with being attached and not just committed, how can they build that, or bridge that, or jump over to the other
Yeah. I think
side?
there's a couple of questions you can ask yourself. One is, can you afford, to be how you are right now? Like, if
Mhm.
you're not back in the game, and we've all had that we've all seen that agent who lost a deal at the last minute and gets just crushed, right? They're like, for days or weeks, they are like out of the game. They're like in a world of hurt. And it's like, hey, has anyone seen Jen lately? Oh, she had that deal fall out last week, and no one's seen her since. Well, someone should check on her, right? Like, but so can you afford to be out of the game for a week, for a day, for an hour? Your family, your other clients, if you have a team, your team members are all counting on you to produce results, right?
Mhm.
Um, can you
Mhm.
afford to be where you are right now? And the answer is, you know 99 times out of 100 is no, you can't, right? You got to get back up, you got to get back in action. So that's one question to be asking
Mhm.
yourself. The other is, and I love this question, it's like, what's my option? What's your option? It's like, yeah, you could be pissed, you could be distraught, you could be angry, you could be fearful, you could be all those things, or you could be in action and taking the next
Mhm.
step or getting up. Um, so always asking yourself, what's
Mhm.
my option? I think is a good way to think. Yeah, I really don't have an option. I got to go do this. I got to make the next call. I got to,
Yes.
have the next meeting.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I'm hearing then is, it's, you know, identify when you're going down that spiral, because that's the first thing. Sometimes we don't even realize that we're spiraling and how much it derails us if we're not accountable to what our emotions are doing to us. So it's first you have to recognize when you're in that pattern of spiral downwards, and then doing something simple like saying, what is my option? That can kind of reframe it, or at least redirect where your thoughts are going, to then make a decision. Okay, either I can stay in this downward spiral and let it waste a bunch more time, or I can learn from it, move on.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. So, okay, let's get personal for a second, because you've been in the game since like before all this, because there's lots of tech going on, but you've been in it before Instagram, TikTok, probably even smartphones. But if you had to start fresh today, and I know life probably seems a lot more complicated today, but let's just say take it back to, you at 20 years old, when you first got started in real estate, getting your license, what would your move be? And what would you not waste time on in today's world?
So here, I just had this conversation with a kid last night. He's just getting into real estate. I'm friends with his father. He said, "Would you talk to my son?" And he asked me a very similar question. And I said, "Look, here's my advice. One is, decide right now, why are you doing what you're doing? Like, why are you doing this? Like, why do you get up every morning, or why are you gonna go into real estate, or why have you chosen this?" And I'm not talking about, oh, because I like helping people or I love homes. I'm talking about, like, at the core, why you exist, why you're here, why you're doing what's going to cause you to do the things you need to do, especially on the days you don't want to do it. So understanding what your why is, and then having a very specific goal. And when I say specific, something that's measurable, right? As a new agent might be, I want, and my suggestion is always have it be a number, a financial number. So even if it's the number of homes you want to sell, translate that to, the income that you want. So this kid asked this kid that question. He said, "Well, I want to make $100,000." I said, "Well, that's a big goal for your first year, and it's doable. But here's what's going to take. You're going to have to figure out how many homes you have to sell to make 100,000. Then you're going to have to figure out how many of those are going to be listings, and how many are going to be buyers, and if you're going to focus on listings, and let's say 70% of them you plan to be listing sold, and 3% buyer deals, how many listings you have to get that many to sell, how many appointments you have to go on to get that many listings." And we worked through some numbers together, but it's having a very specific goal, then having a plan, and then creating a schedule that helps you follow that plan, or implement that plan. Now, none of that sounds fun, exciting, sexy, or anything else, but that's kind of how it works, and not just in real estate, in business. Now, beyond that, I would pick, either things that I feel I'm naturally good at or naturally attracted to, and I would pick 2 or 3 of those things. We talked about this earlier in the conversation, but pick 2 or 3 things, and decide to become really good at those 2 or 3 things. I mean, you know, like Jen, you're really good at coaching, training, and creating content and creating a following. There's agents that are really good at doing that for consumers, and if that's what you're going to be one of your things, then do that. If it's going to be just, hey, I'm going to treat this as a numbers game. I came from solar sales. I'm cutting into real estate, and I know it's the more people I talk to, the more yeses I'm going to get. So I'm going to talk to as many people every day as I can, and either by picking up the phone, knocking on doors, or going to events, or joining this group or joining that group, or working my sphere. I have a big sphere. I have a big family. I'm involved in a lot of different things. I'm going to leverage those relationships to get business. So I'm going to pick 2 or 3 of those, and then really say, okay, what's my plan to attack this one? What's my plan to attack that one? And then I'm going to build it into my daily schedule. And then the job becomes, not making 100,000 or not selling X amount of homes. The job becomes following your schedule every day. Because if you put everything in your schedule that you need to do to achieve those goals, then it's a one day at a time battle. Just do the things you need to do on a daily basis. So that was a long answer to a relatively simple question.
No, I like it though, because you're creating a funnel, right? You start with the big picture, your why, and then you got your goals, and then you got the strategies, and then you got the tactics, and then you got your schedule. And that's a beautiful picture of if you want to reach this, there's got to be some sort of road to get you there, to ultimately get that. And then, like you said, instead of waking up and being like, how am I going to make 100,000 this year? It's waking up and being like, oh, my schedule says to do this, this, and this. And then that's much more bite-sized, like easier to, and it's also at that point then removes the emotion out of it. Not completely, but just the emotion around when you don't feel like it, or when someone says no or whatever. It's like, okay, all I have to do today, right now, are these things in order to funnel me, and there's a direction of hitting what the ultimate goal is. So I love that. I'm glad you did a roundabout answer to that, because I think it paints a beautiful picture of what it should look like. And it doesn't matter. That's nothing about what you said is like, oh, it has to be open houses, it has to be social media, it has to be cool. It can be any one of those things. You pick 2 to 3, you do them well, you stay consistent at them, and then it just becomes a numbers game, not am I good enough or am I skilled enough? Like, that will come if you're consistent doing the right things that fit your personality, who you are, and what you're best at.
I always say, if you're just persistent and consistent, you'll win more times than not. And then over time, you add skills, you add enthusiasm, you add those other components that take you from here to here. But yeah, and then once you're good at those 2 or 3 things, then you can add the 4th or the 5th or the next one. I think, and then then the battle becomes, Jen, is then developing the discipline to follow your schedule every day. And not self-sabotage or be interrupted or have yourself, be checking your text messages and everything else. And I'll share what I told this kid last night is, one way to do that is to treat everything in your schedule with equal importance. So I said, what do you think the most important thing in the schedule he'd be? And he said, well, being a listing presentation or a buyer consultation. I said, okay, I agree. Now, if you're in a listing presentation or in a buyer schedule, would you stop in the middle of it and check your Instagram feed? Would you respond to a text message from a buddy? Would you remember you forgot to tell your accountant something and you wouldn't do any of those things, right? And right, because you're in that appointment. So if you can treat everything in your schedule with that type level of importance, and develop that mindset, because it's 99, probably 90+% mindset. Then you're less likely to say, oh, well, I can do this now, or I can do that, or I'll do this later, right? And then you're not following your schedule.
Absolutely. And I think, there's a graph, you've probably heard it, and I don't know the particular name for it, but it's like a pyramid, and like in the middle meat section of it, kind of when you start to hit proficiency, there's this boredom that happens. And it's like the top performers in our industry, and probably any industry for that matter, figure out how to push past that boredom into those top elite levels. And you've done that. So just really quickly, and then I'm going to do a fun little rapid fire thing here to close us out. But like, with that in mind, have you experienced that? And like, how do you push past that board once you're in a groove and you kind of got things figured out?
Yeah, on a daily basis, I experience that as an agent, because I was very disciplined about following my schedule, and my schedule had me doing certain things every day, and not just some days, like every day. And my early mentor used to call it, getting good with repetitious boredom. That thing that you do over and over again that gets boring. And I think there's a couple of things that help with that. Number one is having that goal that's so important that you're going to do what you need to do even when you don't feel like doing it. You're going to make that extra call. You're going to send that extra note. You're going to respond to that email that you should respond to. Or you're going to send that email that you need to send. Doing those things because the goal is way more important. And the pain of not doing those things because of not reaching the goal is so high. So that's one component, and then the other is, um, just creating structures that make it easier. It could be for anything. Long time ago, I decided I need to get up early. I need to wake up early because I'm stay up late. Didn't like waking up early. It was hard to wake up early. So I created a structure that would help me get up early. And yes, I set an alarm at an early time. The structure I created was putting that alarm in the bathroom. So I had to actually get out
Yep.
of bed to go turn that alarm off. And once I was out of bed, and even if I was looking back at that bed saying, having that debate in my head, it's like, no,
Mhm.
you're up.
Yep.
This is what you committed to. So it might be, hey, I'm going to leave. If you're not prospecting off your cell phone, unless you're doing lead follow up or lead generation, it's literally turning your phone off or putting it on do not disturb or making sure you're getting no notifications. If you're using your phone, it's like, okay, I'm going to have, maybe it's an accountability partner that Jen, would you be
Mhm.
my accountability partner? I'm going to do this. I'm going to call you when I start this activity and when I end it. Or if, or if I respond to any message you send me during this time, I owe you $100. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, there you go. I like
And
that.
and so you can tempt me all you want. I'm not going to pay you that $100. But just those are examples of structures you can put in to help you get through that boredom, and that thing that keeps you going and looking beyond that.
I like it. I like it. Okay, well let's do a little fun before the end here. So I have a rapid fire prompts, and so you just pick the first thing that comes to mind. Your
This
first op. So it's
this could be
this or that
dangerous.
type
Yeah.
of thing. Okay, it could be. No, I won't set you up for failure. Okay, all right, here we go. Uh, Instagram or TikTok?
Instagram.
Text or voice memo?
Voice memo.
Yes. Calendar app or physical notebook?
Calendar app.
Coaching or masterminds?
Coaching.
Work-life balance or full send hustle?
Full send.
Yes. Awesome. There were no wrong answers, by the way. But just like to throw that in there, have a little fun for people. But well, Chris, I know we're getting kind of towards the end of our time. This was super, super powerful. And I know my audience is gonna love what you had to say. So much out of that, so much in there. We could go even deeper into all of those things we talked about. But before we wrap, so what is one bold prediction you have about the next 12 months in real estate? So something that maybe you think people either aren't ready for or that, might be a hot take.
I don't know that these would classify as bold. Like, the market's going to soften up. Prices are going to trend down in a lot of markets. So that means the conversations we have are going to be different conversations. The expectations we set are going to be different expectations. I think the number of new tools and products is going to grow exponentially. Already is. So the number of shiny objects is that we're all exposed to is going to increase dramatically, and then it's how we respond to those. I think and I also think that, again, it's hard to think of this as a bold prediction, but the human interaction, the human touch is going to become more and more important.
I'm glad you touched on this. Okay. And so then I would assume then that you are not one of those people that thinks real estate agents or our industry is going to go away, that maybe the people who know how to use the tech are the people that are going to outshine and outlast the people who just don't know how to use it. Would that be fair
Yeah,
to
totally
say?
fair. I think will the gap between the ones that adapt and adopt and versus the ones that don't is going to get wider and wider. And so
Yep.
there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be scratching their heads and going, wait, what happened? Why am I not getting business? Why are the things I'm doing not working anymore? Um, and
Hmm.
that's totally preventable.
Hmm. Well, so this next question is going to be maybe a little difficult for you because I feel like, especially knowing your story, and if people don't, you guys, you can reach out, go follow him, and we're going to give all of his links for where you can connect with him on socials, where you can get his book, all the things he's working on. But last few things, what do you wish? Even though I know at the very beginning you had success as a new agent, you were in the right mindset, you were a hustler, and all of that. But is there anything that you wish you had learned earlier
Mm.
that you didn't, know or didn't implement or didn't realize when you first started?
Yeah, so much. I mean, um, yeah, I think I've made as many or more mistakes than most people would even imagine. So the things I wish I would have learned earlier, I wish I would have learned some of the stuff that you've learned earlier that you've even brought up in this conversation is like the importance of being a leader. Um, early on, I didn't, you know, I was a driven, focused salesperson and thought everyone around me should be that same way. And if they weren't, something was wrong with them. Um, and so I burned a lot of opportunities and relationships because although I always attracted really good people, I didn't keep them because I didn't invest in myself and becoming a leader and a good leader. Um, Early on, um, my ego, there were times where my ego was out of whack and I, fortunately I caught that, but I wish I would have caught it earlier because I know that cost me.
Mhm.
Uh, Early on, there were times where I stayed a little too narrowly focused and became masterful at those things, but didn't add more things. Like, no, I'm gonna keep doing this. Now, I had success with those things and a high level of success, but I think I could have had even more success, um, yeah, had I, broadened or increased my willingness to do more. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, gosh, I could probably go on and on, but yeah, a lot of
Well, it's really like I appreciate you answering honestly because that's hard. Like especially with the success that you had, but to like bring it back to what that is because a lot of our audiences, I mean, we have anywhere ranging from brand new to team leaders, brokerage owners, that are watching and so that's really helpful. And I feel like you're a relatable person. And one thing I've noticed, the more people like quote unquote at the top or what people perceive as at the top is that there actually is a lot of humility and not of like not in a weird way, but just in a way of like, I've messed up so much that I have a lot of understanding and I have a lot of experience. And I've noticed that some of the most successful people are so willing to share and willing to say, this is where all the areas that I went wrong. And I feel like that's what truly helps people. Like when you can be relatable, when you can say, I didn't have it all figured out. Yes, you were successful out of the gate, but there was more to that. And that's why I asked that question is because some people will look at you and be like, oh, at 20 years old, you sold whatever it was, 70 homes, your first year, or whatever it was. It's like, oh, unrelatable and turn it off. But when you can draw, like really actually hear the struggle and what it actually looks like and that success is not linear. It's not a perfect bar graph of, leveling up. It looks like a crazy maze that is not
yeah.
pretty. So I appreciate you sharing that because we don't always hear that side of, someone's success story. Okay. And I want to bring it back to earlier before we got this thing started, you said you're working on something super exciting with AI. So I want to give you a chance to share about that and what you're
Yeah,
working
it's
on.
it's called salesgo.ai, salesgo.ai. You can try it for free on the site. It's a very simple and narrowly focused product. It's just for role playing. And right now there's 3 or 4 types of role play scenarios. They're adding more all the time. Uh, but I think the biggest opportunity for agents is to build their skills, and it's the one thing that I see agents not investing on. Right? They do the activities, they don't get the results, they miss opportunities, and they don't understand how costly that is. You really only get one shot to nail that listing appointment or that buyer consultation or that make that expired call. Why do some agents have massive success on calling expires and others go, yeah, they're horrible. I hate them. They all hang up on me. It's the same consumer. Someone's being effective, someone's not. It's their skills. So Sales Go allows you to role play. As we said earlier, it's 24/7. You can role play whenever you want. You aren't dependent on another human. A lot of role play sessions with another human, you talk about other things, you get interrupted. It's not as efficient, as effective, and it's challenging. This is very challenging. So it makes you get better. So when you make the actual calls or in the actual situation, you're much more at ease. Your confidence is much higher. And I've seen that happen. My team was one of the beta testers. My ISA has doubled the amount of appointments she's set. And she goes, because now when I'm talking to a consumer and they say this, I don't get rattled. I'm not thinking about, what to say or how to respond or saying something that was stupid. And then I'm mad at myself for saying it in the middle of the conversation. She's just much more confident and much, more competent.
Mm-hmm. So it's easier to practice your skills so then when you're in the game that you convert better and win better. So you said right now, so just to give people an idea, it's live. Like someone can go right now, do a free trial. Is there a month? Like what's the difference between the free?
It's if you do it for the year, it comes out to like $1 a day, like $33 a month. I think if you just do it on a monthly basis, it's I want to say $49 a month.
Okay.
That's a small investment to make in the career you've chosen.
By practicing and improving your skills, it'll more than pay for it.
Cut out 3 or 4 Starbucks and you're good.
Awesome. Love that. Okay. So people can get it right now. You've got the packages and you're still building out different scenarios. Love that. Okay. Anything else you're working on? I want you to tell them about your book. Where can they find you?
Yeah, look at you. You can reach me on any social platform. The book is Dominant Thoughts. It's on Amazon. It's a short, easy read. Actually have a copy here. I just realized.
Yes, love it.
Yeah, and it's just it's a business parable. It's about a mentor and a mentee, and each chapter has some of the lessons I've learned. And then our company, Movoto, we operate Movoto.com. We are the 5th largest portal. Everyone's heard of the 4 larger ones, Zillow, Redfin, Homes, Realtor. We operate a business very similar to them. We partner with top agents and top teams to make buyer and seller introductions to them, and also with mortgage companies. So those are the things going on in my world.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. Well, all right, you guys, that is a wrap. A huge thank you so much, Chris, for keeping it real with us. And if you guys are watching this live or on replay, drop your biggest takeaways in the comments. Let us know, give us feedback. And don't forget, this is why we do what we do here. We're not here for boring. We're here to build momentum, help you guys, feel more powerful and be honest, and build really good real estate businesses that actually work. So make sure you go follow Chris Heller for more insights from him. And I will catch you guys on the next live. Thank you so much, Chris. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks, Jen. Anytime. It was fun.
Absolutely. We'll do it again. Bye.
Bye.